Thank you very much, Mr. Montoot, for the introduction. Let me say a pleasant good morning to everyone, and also congratulate my colleagues in the issues that they have addressed this morning. When we meet with you on a Tuesday morning at a press conference as the United Workers' Party in opposition, we are not just passing time. We are bringing factual information. We are bringing to light the real issues that confront the people of St. Lucia, and we are asking the right questions and giving you the information that you require so that you can challenge the government and those in authority today to give you the right information. And so as a result, I just want to make a quick comment before I go to my main subject area on the issue of land. I will come to what my colleague Mrs. Johnson addressed in terms of the cost of living, and you would see where we are going with this. But on the land issue, we need to ask the government. The Labour Party boasted about the implementation of PROUD many years ago. That was one of the pet projects of Dr. Kenny Anthony. My information is that the PROUD unit has been disbanded, or everybody who used to work in PROUD is no longer there. Is that one of the reasons why Dr. Anthony is so upset with the Labour Party today? Because the PROUD unit was set up, and I know the PROUD unit achieved some things during its time in operation where and both governments use PROUD. So both UWP and the St. Lucia Labour Party kept the PROUD unit going, and they did a fair amount of work. My information today is that the PROUD unit, I tried to call 3, 4, 5 people who used to work there because PROUD was under my ministry when I was in government, and everybody is telling me we are no longer there. So if that is the case, if PROUD is no longer in operation, who is going to undertake the task of making these lands available to St. Lucians? Are you setting up a new unit? And if Richard Frederick, as the Minister of Housing, is going to be in charge of this unit, then every St. Lucian has a right to be concerned. Secondly, we need clarification on the 10 acres of land at Union as to whether it has been sold and who it has been sold to. Because this was 10 acres of crown lands that became part of the government assets when the Daher Mall was acquired. It came with 10 acres of land at Union. My information is that these 10 acres of land have been sold to an operative of the St. Lucia Labour Party. I am calling. I cannot verify that information as I speak, so I am asking a question. Because these days, before you could have gone to the land registry or planning and get to know about properties, all of a sudden everything is under lock and key. So by the time you would find out what is happening in St. Lucia, there may not be a St. Lucia anymore. So the question is, has these 10 acres been sold? Have you sold these 10 acres? For whom and for how much? My next question is, the land in Deglo that was attempted to be purchased by one particular family and rejected by a United Workers' Party government, of which Stevenson King was present and voted not to sell the land then because he felt the same way the cabinet felt. So the proposal was rejected. My information is that land has now been sold, and sold for about 30 cents a square foot. I am calling on the government to clarify that information. I know at the time we were there, the proposal came to us at 42 cents a square foot, and we said that would never happen on the UWP government. And imagine the land was offered at 42 cents, and the person wanting to buy it was saying it was still too expensive. The good thing is I have my old cabinet papers on it. So when the Labour Party will want to challenge me on this, I will make the information available. And everybody in Forestier wants to know, so I'm calling on the parliamentary rep for Castries Southeast. Our information is that the land that was earmarked for the community center, on which construction had already begun, that a portion of this land has been sold to the same person I'm hearing who bought the land at Union. I want the government, when you come in and talk to people about you want to give them land and you want to do this and you want to do that, can you please clarify what has become of these state assets? That is as much as I will say on the land issue. I want to deal with a recent report I listened to on Hot 7 TV, where the Minister of Infrastructure indicated again, maybe for the 10th time, his disappointment with himself and his ministry. I cannot understand how a prime minister presiding over the affairs of a country can have a minister come on television so often to say how disappointed he is about his performance as minister in charge of the Millennium Highway repairs and the West Coast Road. And once again, he said he's not very happy. He said he's disappointed at the pace at which the work is going. Now, what we see is a high level of incompetence by two individuals who have both served as Prime Minister and Minister of Infrastructure. So, the Honorable Philip J Pierre, under the previous Labour administration, was Minister of Infrastructure, now Prime Minister of St. Lucia. Honorable Stevenson King, formerly Prime Minister under UWP government, Minister of Infrastructure under UWP government, and continued Minister of Infrastructure under a St. Lucia Labour Party government. So if there are two persons you would think who could get a project like that done, would be the Prime Minister, the present Prime Minister, the former Prime Minister, the present Minister of Infrastructure, and the former Minister of Infrastructure. And all we have received for the past 4 years are excuses. And the latest excuse baffled me. Not even Tom and Jerry would give that kind of excuse that the Prime Minister gave. I mean, I listen to some of the comedies that come on social media sometimes. And none of the comedians can beat what Stevenson King said. You'd think the man was a comedian. And I will paraphrase what he said. He said the project is not really our project because a grant was given by the UK government and the project is being implemented by CDB? Honorable Stevenson King, I was at the meeting in Barbados. You were there. The Attorney General, Stephen Julian, was there. The then Prime Minister, Honorable Alan Shastney, was present. That is not a CDB project. CDB is only handling the financial aspect because the money was put through CDB for the administration, not for the implementation of the project. For that matter, the project was delayed for almost a year because your ministry refused to change the engineer that you wanted to be in charge of the project, while CDB was saying the engineer did not meet the benchmark qualifications to implement a project of that nature. And we were embarrassed when we got to Barbados because there we were thinking CDB was the one stalling the project, while all the time it was Ministry of Infrastructure in St. Lucia who was stalling the project. And that's when the UWP was in government. So we knew you were at work undermining the government of the United Workers' Party. But I am happy that the St. Lucia Labour Party is getting a taste of their own medicine. The same way they used you to come after the United Workers' Party, you are using them now because you are not getting the projects done. So the excuse you gave about not being able to deal with the contractor, that's a lame excuse. This is our project, our consultants on the project. The Ministry of Infrastructure is the one who signs off on the payments. How is it not our project? How are we not the ones responsible? CDB have any consultants on the ground they're paying to do the job? It is the Ministry of Infrastructure. The project has a consultant, and the ministry has its supervisors. You know, when people are incompetent, they tell you bad workmen always blame their tools. That is what we are getting. So, Mr. King, if you say that it is CDB that is delaying that project, or you all cannot really do anything because technically you're saying you cannot really manage the contractor because it is CDB. I want you to tell the people of St. Lucia whether CDB is in charge of that crossing in Prale. The main road between north and south. How long have we seen a simple culvert crossing in Prale? How long has this been under construction? A year? How? So, the incompetence of the minister is coming across the board. You want to give us an excuse about the Millennium Highway, but you not going to tell us what is happening? Why does a simple crossing take so long? If you cast the foundation and you cast the top of half of the road, you need 21 days for the concrete to settle. And if you add the right additives to the concrete, you can get your concrete strength in a week or 2 weeks. So if you want to take your full 21 or 28 days, so one side of the road should take us 28 days to settle, then you open and you go to the other side. As far as I recall, it may be almost a year or more that this little culvert crossing is under construction in Prale. And all of a sudden, what we see for speed bumps in the road are ropes. You would think is a ship they are tying. Not the ship that grazes, you know. The ships that anchor in the bay. Everywhere I'm passing now, I'm seeing a big rope across the road, and that is our speed bump. Is that what we have become in this country? When every project has a component of safety, and there is a fair amount of money allocated for safety, where you have proper signage, where you have proper barriers, where you have proper lights indicating that there is danger ahead. Can you imagine going into the rainy season and driving on these roads with all these potholes, open trenches? There's been an open trench right there in cul-de-sac for over 6 months. They did the two sides and they left a big hole in the middle without any proper signage. And you going to tell the people of St. Lucia that it is CDB that is hampering the implementation of that project? What absurdity for a man who should... Your 30 years in politics has brought in no results. Maybe you need 30 years to finish that road. So I don't know if you'll still be alive when this road is done, given your age. But you know, we must hold governments accountable. And then, this is the same minister who stopped the Rodney Bay Road. He's part of the government that stopped the airport project and could have fired the Taiwanese contractor when the money came from the Exim Bank in Taiwan. And the arrangement with the Exim Bank was that the project would be done by a Taiwanese contractor because of the process of getting the money through the Exim Bank. You could fire them. You could terminate the control tower contract at the airport in Vieux-Fort. You could stop the airport project. But you want to give us excuses that you cannot deal with the Millennium Highway? The road in Rodney Bay was being done. The contractor was putting his own money. You knew how to stop the project. You gave a stop notice, and you had a certain number of days in which the contractor had to measure up and the ministry had to keep its end. None of it happened. So you know how to terminate contracts. You know how to get contracts terminated. You tell us why you've not been able to deal with this one, and stop giving us these lame excuses. So here we are in the rainy season again. How many times have we heard the Labour Party say you cannot fix roads in the rain? So are we going to drag through this rainy season, which started earlier than the 1st of June? Because for the last 3 weeks we've had rain. What is becoming of this? You see, I want St. Lucians to understand. There are some things that it takes people who can work to make it happen. They're doing a little bridge crossing, they could not do it. Shock Bridge and Bois d'Orange Bridge. When I was Minister of Infrastructure and Hurricane Thomas came with all of its challenges, and the whole top of the bridge was washed away and the other bridge was gone. In 24 hours, we were able to get Shock and Bois d'Orange Bridge open. You know who was minister? Guy Joseph. You know who was prime minister? Stevenson King. Who made the difference? Certainly not Stevenson King. Because if he could have made the difference then, when you were stuck in Barbados, you remember who you called? You called me and you said, Minister, do what you have to do to get the country going. And we did get the country going. So I am saying to the people of St. Lucia, you have to know who can work and who cannot work. So this same Labour Party government stopped the Rodney Bay Road, stopped the Shock project, stopped the Talvan project, stopped the airport project. All of a sudden, they are throwing their hands in the air and saying we cannot do anything about the Millennium Highway. That's a lie. You could have done something on the Millennium Highway, you didn't do it. And you could have done something on the other road, that is the road linking the Millennium Highway to Soufrière. But that you are going to hear more about. I go to the main subject for me for today, UHC, Universal Health Coverage. Now, sometimes I want St. Lucians to take time to understand why things happen the way that they happen. And that is why I always give my information. In my hand there is the 2011 manifesto of the St. Lucia Labour Party. Why am I dealing with the 2011 manifesto? That is to tell all the people who are promised land how long it may take you on the Labour Party to get land, if you ever get it. So, I will go first of all to page 13 on the manifesto. On page 13, here's what the Labour Party told us. On the value-added tax, here's what the government said. Government must respond to the growing and changing needs of its citizens. Among these are the need to ensure that. So they're giving us the reasons why they implemented VAT. And here are the reasons. And St. Lucians, don't forget, that was implemented around 2012 by a St. Lucia Labour Party, of which Dr. Kenny Anthony was Prime Minister and Philip J Pierre was Deputy. Note what they said. All children from birth get access to quality education. This was promised in 2011 as to why VAT was being implemented. All citizens have access to affordable health care. High-risk groups get effective social protection services. The population is serviced by an efficient public service. Our country has a sound, well-maintained stock of public infrastructure. When Labour Party wanted to implement VAT, that is what. Now, I've spoken about infrastructure. It's the worst it has ever been in this country. There are so many government offices infested with mold that people have to work from home, people are getting sick, and we are still paying rent for some of these buildings. So here's where I focus. All citizens have access to affordable health care. That is what the Labour Party said in 2011 when they were implementing VAT. As to the reason, on page 38, still in the 2011 manifesto, universal health care, a reality. Did you hear what I say? Labour Party said universal health care, a reality. And here's what they say. It is our primary mission to ensure that every St. Lucian has access to a package of guaranteed health services. And they went on to say, in this term of office, our party will implement universal health care. That is what Kenny Anthony and Philip J Pierre said in 2011. I want to ask every right-thinking St. Lucian, Do you have access to quality health care? Can you afford quality health care? Because how long have you been paying VAT? 12 years. And we were paying VAT with the promise of a Labour Party government that we would get quality health care. That is why I know the Labour Party have challenges with Guy Joseph, because I don't come and tell you stories. And I'm able to connect the dots, because I always say, if you are a Bible student, you will understand one thing. There's only one way to understand the Bible. Precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little. So you have to put the bits and pieces together. So when you read one page of the manifesto, it says something. It says why they're implementing VAT. And it says quality healthcare. But when you go under universal healthcare now, it gives you a specific time period. We are in 2025. Do we have universal healthcare? And to further compound the situation, Philip J Pierre, having been part of the Labour administration since 1997 and was part of the architect who gave that manifesto, comes to us and now implements a health and security levy at 2.5%. A health and security levy. But you see, I don't want to just tell you things you know. I'm going to the manifesto of the St. Lucia Labour Party. It says universal healthcare on page 20, the 2021 manifesto with Philip J Pierre. On page 20, it says universal healthcare will be implemented within our first term of a Labour Party government. I'm still trying to understand that English. So I heard my colleague say Sapa Labour. Maybe that's not Labour, that was in government all before. Because if Philip J Pierre is saying Labour has been in office 79, well, they were there in 51 to 64. They were there in 79 to 82. They were there in 97 to 2006. They were there in 2011 to 2016. But here's what the manifesto of Philip J Pierre says. Universal healthcare will be implemented within the first term of a Labour Party government. He didn't say of his Labour Party government. The first term of a Labour Party in government. So maybe all before. St. Jude will be reopened within the shortest possible time. The OKEU hospital will be adequately resourced with proper emergency services. We shall make the employment of all eligible contracted nurses and doctors permanent. In demonstration of a Labour Party's government commitment to healthcare and the well-being of its citizens. Here's what he says. A percentage of GDP will be committed to the maintenance and improvement of St. Lucia's healthcare facility. He never said he was going to implement a 2.5%. He said a percentage of GDP, not an additional tax. Yet still, he came with a health and security levy, and what do we have to show for it? So, I still have the letter from the Medical and Dental Association, which highlighted all of the problems at the health institutions. And those of us who have been to the health institutions in most recent times, how much improvement is there at the OKEU hospital? So the Labour Party now, they want to do things that will distract us, that will cause the discussion to go in a different direction. So you're making false promises of land to people? Yeah, a few people might get some land because you've been selling land to friends of the Labour Party for a long time. And you want to cover up what you are doing. So the 10 acres at Union, couldn't it have been given to poor and needy people? But I will find out the price in time. So, you implemented VAT. We've paid VAT for over 12 years in this country, and there's no improvement in healthcare. So should we stop paying VAT? You promise, you introduced 2.5 health and security levy, and you lied to us, Prime Minister, about the reason for health and security when it was really to secure a loan. Was it from the same CDB or the World Bank? I am asking every St. Lucian, how many of you can afford health care? Why do we still have so many barbecues, so many fundraising activities for basic health care in this country? You know why that is happening to St. Lucians? Because UWP lost the elections in 2021. If UWP had won the election, every St. Lucian today would have health coverage to the tune of $75,000 per year. So, you said that you are going to introduce universal health care. We are in the last year of the government. And from all indications, you intend to call elections before July of 2026. When will universal health care be implemented? How many manifestos of Labour Party do I have to go to show you that all the things you say you will do, you have never done them? So, St. Lucia, right in this room, where I am standing here today, a presentation on universal health care was made to the opposition by the consultants engaged by the government of the St. Lucia Labour Party. St. Lucia, did you hear me? So 4 years you telling us you're going to implement universal health care in this term in government, and only now you send in consultants on the eve of elections. And St. Lucia, I will stick to my word. At our Sunday Live, I said I'm giving the government a week. I don't know if they addressed universal health care at the cabinet briefing yesterday, but the week is still running. And I'm hoping by next Tuesday at our press briefing, we will disclose the information if the government fails to disclose it. Because the information they're telling us about universal health care and everything free is a lie. The government has never explained universal health care. And what I can tell you is that the United Workers' Party government was much more advanced in its preparation for implementation of universal health care than the consultants who came to present to the opposition. In fact, we could have presented to the consultants, not the consultants presenting to us, because we were so far ahead of them. Now what they are doing is good. I'm not criticizing what the consultants are doing. I am saying to you that we were much more advanced. Can you imagine? You are in grade 6 already, and they put you back in grade 3. And you now have to redo the work that you did in grade 3 when you're already doing work in grade 6. That is how I describe where universal health care is under the St. Lucia Labour Party. But, Honorable Prime Minister and Minister of Health, I am calling upon you all to come clean with the people of St. Lucia. Tell us how you're going to finance universal health care. Tell us what universal health care will offer and how it will work. Because the consultants are far from understanding. They're still doing research. They're still finding out things that is already available in the Ministry of Health. Maybe it would be wise to tell us how much you pay in the consultants now for work that has already been done and is sitting on computers and in files in the Ministry of Health. And so in closing, I want to say to us, the people of St. Lucia, do not be fooled by what you are hearing. These promises, you heard what the contractor for St. Jude said? He said, cost does not matter. But I know to every St. Lucian, cost matters. Maybe to Reno Gajada, cost does not matter. Because when you have more money than you need to live, cost does not matter. But how many St. Lucians can say that? And here is a man who is given a job by the country that is being paid by taxpayers, and he is given the latitude to say that cost does not matter. Have you heard one minister from government? Have you heard one individual from the Labour Party say, I have a problem with the fact that cost does not matter? So is that why groceries are so expensive? Is that why we cannot afford to go to the supermarket? Is that why now people can't even take their family for a little outing? Is that why we cannot afford health care? Because the Labour Party has allowed everything to skyrocket, because as far as the Elon Musk says, cost does not matter. St. Lucia, I know cost matters to us. Cost matters to the United Workers' Party. Cost matters to the single mother and even the well-structured family who earns a decent salary. We still have to watch how we live and how much we pay for things. So St. Lucia, there is only one solution to our problem. And that solution is, let us get rid of this St. Lucia Labour Party government and the high level of incompetent ministers, and let us bring persons who are competent. When I listen to my colleague, Mrs. Marcella Johnson, a well-made, successful woman. When I listen to my colleague, Rosh Clark, a young man who rose through the most difficult challenges of growing up in a society that is labeled and branded, and made something good of himself, can become a role model that other young people can emulate. These are the kind of leaders that we are presenting to this country for the future, and the future of St. Lucia will be in good hands under a United Workers' Party government. Thank you.